Hello, BookTube.
Hello.
It's
Steve.
again and Ros for the last bit of our Faulkner in August visit to The Sound of the Fury, which has been a tremendous experience. So first up, I'm just going to say thank you to our lovely hosts, Brian and Alan, and the Uno and Crypto of CodeX Cantina. So for kind of inspiring us to enjoy this fascinating book.
I mean, I came on at the last minute. I wasn't expecting or anticipating to do this, and it has been it's been a most enjoyable journey, I think, that I wouldn't have otherwise done. I don't think so. Thank you for you for sort of suggesting it, and for other people for having the idea to do it in the first place.
And roll on next year, and whatever our Faulkner in August will be. But right now, we want to kind of round up our Sound of the Fury experience with what we made of the fourth section. And like a few people have said, one might have expected that the fourth section would be Caddy's section, because we have the three brothers.
Yeah.
And then it isn't. Yeah.
No, I sort of, obviously that's a deliberate choice on Faulkner's part, and is it a reflection that Caddy has moved away and moved on? So she has gone somewhere else.
Escaped, even.
Escaped,
yes. As does Miss Quinton.
Indeed.
In this section, yes.
So,
Yeah. But also, I think it's a very positive choice to see this section more through the eyes of Dilsey. So it's kind of like it's the other family, and we've had the two families all the way through, the Compsons and the family of their black servants that live with them, or in like a sort of
cabin on the
cabin, sort of not that far from the house. So they're intimately interconnected, and we find, and they've members of that family have been in every section up to now. And then finally we get a section that actually focuses more on their perspective, not totally, but more.
And it's not written, in the sort. It's a third person, isn't it? It's
not first person.
Not
yes.
First person. So that's another interesting change of perspective, I think.
Yeah.
For me, Dilsey, who's the central character, is quite clearly the moral centre of the book.
So why didn't Faulkner do it in the first person as Dilsey? Why didn't he?
I guess it's probably because it's about that. I think one of the things for me, what he's saying is about a lack of ego, isn't it? It's about not being self-centered. It's about giving to other people willingly. And if we're thinking back to the whole Christian Easter message, it is about sacrifice, I guess, isn't it? And the description that he gives of Dilsey right at the beginning about a collapsed body and things like that show what she has given in the service of people who really don't deserve her service. But that's not something that she questions. She just does that.
And cares for them with love of a sort. I mean, you can't quite understand why, but
it's always about duty. It's about this is my lot. I guess this is what I must do, and I will do it. She gets horrendous abuse. From Jason in particular, but also that kind of the snobbish.
I mean, Caroline, Mrs. Compson, she doesn't treat her. She treats her abominably.
She treats her like a slave.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, exactly.
So it's.
I mean, I did wonder whether it was whether Faulkner would not have been comfortable doing a first-person narrative through a sort of older black woman, whether he wouldn't feel that that was a head that he could sit in. I don't know.
Possibly, but I think it is for me. It's much more about that. Stepping back and saying this is different.
Yes.
From the selfishness. Well, it's interesting because Benji is Benji selfish?
Well, he's self-centered.
He's self-centered
as opposed to selfish.
When he's innocent.
Yes.
I mean, I think he represents innocence. In a sense. Whereas Dilsey obviously knows and has a choice about what she does to an extent within parameters. Although Miss Caroline sort of says you can go at any time, but how easy that would be for an elderly black woman to find.
I've got a terrible cough. So, thinking of which, the one thing that is a bit tricky, uneasy for the reader, today's reader, in this section, is how he sort of renders the speech patterns of his black characters when he's doing that at more length. I wasn't. I mean, I could see, he's trying to make them sound how he hears it in his head, but it was a bit. I don't know. Did that bother you?
I mean, it didn't. It's about, again, that's, yes, if he'd written it in straightforward, plain English, then it wouldn't have been the same. He wouldn't have had that. I suppose you could try and do it with rhythm and with nuance and with words.
Yes. So it would have been like taking away her... say Dilsey's personality,
and the sense of other. I think difference. I think it emphasises that, and it might be slowed down to read it. True. To read that dialogue between people. Yeah, no,
that's interesting. And it's interesting with the preacher, who starts by using a register that's more of a sort of I don't know, kind of educated white. They say he sounds like a white preacher, and then moves into a sort of a more sort of black mode in his preaching that the congregation really respond to, and it becomes like a call and response thing more, and it kind of comes to life.
But again, that's about emphasising the difference, isn't it? About I guess the parallel worlds that existed and still exist to some extent. But
because it is Easter Sunday, and the church service and the going to church is a really kind of, it's like a key pivotal moment in the section, isn't it?
Well, in the book, isn't it? I mean, it's a culmination of the book. Yes, I mean, I'm not sure about Faulkner's beliefs and whether he was a religious man, but it seems quite, to me, as there is a religious message in this book. The whole idea of redemption and the fact that it finishes on Easter Sunday, time of rebirth, time of renewal, spring, all of those kinds of things.
And Dilsey kind of says that, doesn't she?
And later on, Benji having a flower. It's a narcissi, wasn't it? Yes. Spring loaded, loaded metaphor in many ways. Narcissi, isn't it? Also, but I mean, Jimson weed as well, which I was reading somewhere, is actually an hallucinogenic.
Yes, and they give him that a lot, and
that Luster does in the first.
Yes, which is intriguing. So, what did you like about this section?
The writing. I thought the writing was superb. I know that you did as well. There's some beautiful descriptive writing. I mean, it has been throughout, but particularly I think in this.
More so because it's not in the first person stream of consciousness, so that Faulkner can kind of let rip a bit more with his sort of descriptive writing. I've got a bit of my absolute favourite bit. I'm gonna give you, because I've loved this so much. So they're going to church, and the road rose again to a scene like a painted backdrop, notched into a cut of red clay crowned with oaks. The road appeared to stop short off like a cut ribbon. Beside it, a weathered church lifted its crazy steeple like a painted church, and the whole scene was as flat and without perspective as a painted cardboard set upon the ultimate edge of the flat earth against the windy sunlight of space, an April and a mid-morning filled with bells. So that painting, and it being the end of the earth,
Well, yeah, it's interesting because that's an existentialist trope. I mean, later on, Camus writes about the things becoming flat like scenery, and so that can be a sort of a distancing kind of use of that. But it's just beautiful writing, I think, in that. And for me, the other metaphors that he uses a lot in this section about paths and roads.
Yes.
And again, that fits in with the overall religious theme, I would say.
Yes.
It's about, there's a path to the church, and that it's actually a raised path as well, isn't it? So the buildings are on either side of it, and people come out as they're passing through, and conversations go on.
So they gradually throng.
But they're following the path to the church.
And
then
which ties in to that. Well, there's another path, the path that Jason follows, pursuing Miss Quinton, who's run off.
Indeed, a path which nearly leads to his demise, doesn't it? He picks a fight with a man with a hatchet, which is never a good idea.
Yeah, inside a kind of this dark space, so it's almost like he sort of travels to hell, isn't it?
Or to Hades.
Hades, there's a hint to that, isn't there? Which we've had the sort of Hades Persephone thing come up before, but yes, he and then who has to bail him out and get him home again?
He has to ask black people, black men, to get him on the right path home. And so again, it's about returning. And he's at that stage, he seems to have he gives up on his pursuit of Miss Quinton and the money. Whether he has actually found any kind of proper redemption, I guess, is a moot point. It's
more like his resignation. There's an element of like the Compson family is diminishing in significance, and it's almost like at that moment he accepts his fate to be insignificant.
But then right at the end, the very last thing where Luster is taking Benji to the graveyard, which again, a road to the grave, and a road to the church, and a road to the graveyard. And Luster takes the wrong turning to Benji's great agitation. It is Jason that leaps into the buggy or whatever it is, and turns them with a fringe on top, and turns them to the right path. So it's Jason who brings them round to the right path, but that path is the path to the graveyard. So
and that path is the path of doing things the way you've always done them. And which hasn't exactly paid off for the Compsons, has it?
No.
So it's like it comforts Benji, but it's like it's accepting their sort of that. Their fate.
I missed on that one because I was just focused very much on there being a right path that you have to follow the right way.
No, it's the Compson path.
It is the Compson path.
Whereas Luster, who is I think my favourite character in this section, I love Luster because he's like so teenage and full of bravado, and and he's trying to get to work out how to play a saw down in the cellar, hiding in the cellar to work it, and then that he's going to drive the Surrey, the buggy, as you say, and of course I can do it, and oh yes, I'll be good and go slowly, and then he's like,
and the whip gets confiscated from him, and he makes his own.
But I feel like Luster is a figure of the future.
Well, I mean, he is constantly threatening to whip Benji.
Oh,
isn't
yes. But he doesn't.
He doesn't, but that threat is there, and a black child threatening to whip a white man, I guess.
Disabled man. It's interesting, but yes, and the reason wants to go the wrong way round. The statue. That was the thing that I'll save that idea. He wants to go the other way round to kind of like see if there's anyone to see him, look at him driving the Surrey. But apparently the thing he was going round is a statue it's got a Confederate soldier on the top.
Ooh.
which I hadn't sort of twigged, but that's something that apparently if you know the world that Faulkner creates there and that he keeps coming back to. So
statues of Confederate soldiers. I mean, because that would have been in that era that it was written. It would have been a relatively recent thing because it was. I think it was post First World War that a lot of the Confederate statues started going up. The Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yes,
it certainly wasn't it wasn't long.
But
it wasn't long before that had started.
But then that's when Faulkner's writing this, isn't he?
Absolutely,
So yes.
So it would have been a relatively new thing for those statues to be there.
So altogether, thoroughly, I found the ending a little low key compared with. I found some of the others. The other three sections are very intense and compelling and challenging to read, and so you're sort of really whereas this is a much more melancholy, which was actually a good way to end the book. I think. Yes.
Well, it worked for me. I just thought, that's the right way to do it.
No, I thought it was a sound decision in the end. Although at first I was thinking, this is not.
Well, it's because you wanted more.
I did. Just greedy. More. Yeah. So, is that? Have we put The Sound and the Fury to bed? Do you think?
Well, can you ever? Do that, there's the what happened next section that Faulkner wrote sometime later, isn't there?
Yes.
So, but maybe that's a different.
Well, we
different
might
exercise.
We might leave that to Alan, who's one of the Faulkner in August hosts, and if you have any inclination to read The Sound and the Fury, I couldn't recommend it more highly, I think.
Absolutely. I mean,
as an experience.
I have an ambivalent relationship with books by American male authors. The whole idea of the
you and me both.
The whole idea of the great American novel is one which I find problematic in many ways, having read Saul Bellow. But this, I think, is quite genuinely a great American novel.
Absolutely.
And I am almost ashamed that I got to be 60 before I read it.
Never too late.
Never too late.
No.
Maybe I wouldn't have appreciated it when I was going.
No.
I don't think. A great book.
Yeah. So, thank you and goodbye.
Bye bye.